It was a cold spring morning in Salt Lake City, Utah, May 16, 1985. The city was quiet, wrapped in a blanket of thin gray mist. But that silence was about to be broken forever. Along a deserted road near Jefferson Street, police discovered the body of a young woman, 18-year-old Christine Gallegos. She had been beaten, violated, stabbed, and shot. A brutal crime that shocked the city, but no one knew who did it. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into decades, and for nearly 40 years, Christine's case remained frozen in time, one of Utah's most haunting cold cases, until the DNA spoke. Before that tragic morning, Christine Gallegos was just a normal 18-year-old girl living in Salt Lake City, Utah. She grew up in a modest neighborhood, surrounded by friends, family, and the gentle rhythm of small-town life. Her friends described her as kind, cheerful, and full of energy, someone who could light up any room with a smile. Christine loved music, dancing, and late-night phone calls with her best friend, talking about school, dreams, and love. She had her whole life ahead of her, a future she was eager to build. On the night of May 15, 1985, Christine told her family she would be home soon. But that night, she never came back. As the hours passed, her mother waited by the window, watching headlights pass outside, hoping one of them would be her daughter's. When morning came, 2 police officers knocked on their door, bringing the words no parent ever wants to hear. 18-year-old Christine Gallegos had been found dead on Jefferson Street. The news shattered the quiet community and left her family in unbearable grief. Her story would soon become one of Utah's darkest unsolved mysteries, a name whispered for decades, waiting for justice. And though time moved on, the people who loved her never forgot. To them, Christine wasn't just a victim in a cold case file. She was a daughter, a friend, and a light that once brightened their world. The scene on Jefferson Street was unlike anything investigators had seen before. Christine's body was found near a small grassy area beside the road, partially hidden by weeds and debris. There were clear signs of a violent struggle, scattered belongings, torn clothing, and blood on the ground. Detectives believed she had fought desperately for her life. Nearby, they discovered footprints, a spent bullet casing, and traces of tire marks leading away from the scene. The evidence told a story of chaos, fear, and unimaginable pain. Within hours, the area was sealed off with yellow tape as police worked through the night. Neighbors watched from their porches, shocked and frightened. Reporters arrived, turning the quiet neighborhood into a frenzy of flashing lights and whispered rumors. The autopsy later confirmed what everyone feared. Christine had been beaten, sexually assaulted, stabbed, and then shot. A brutal crime that shocked the city, but no one knew who did it. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into leads, and nothing seemed to lead anywhere. DNA evidence had been collected, but in 1985, technology was far from ready to identify a killer. Back then, DNA analysis was still in its infancy, slow, expensive, and extremely limited. The samples were carefully sealed and stored away, waiting for a future that could read them. As weeks turned into months, the case stalled, and by the end of that summer, the murder of Christine Gallegos had become one more mystery, frozen in time. For nearly 4 decades, the box labeled Christine Gallegos, 1985, sat untouched in the police evidence room. Dust gathered on its surface, but inside lay a secret waiting to be read. Over the years, generations of detectives reviewed the case, each hoping to be the one to solve it. But time and technology were against them. Fingerprints, ballistics, and early DNA tests all led nowhere. Still, no one in the Salt Lake City Police Department could forget Christine. They kept her file alive, moving it from shelf to shelf, waiting for science to catch up. Then, in 2023, that moment finally came. Detectives reached out to Othram Laboratories in Texas, one of the leading DNA genealogy labs in the world. For the first time, the evidence collected in 1985 was carefully unsealed and analyzed with modern genetic tools. From a single strand of DNA, they began to trace distant relatives, mapping out an entire family tree. Week by week, they narrowed the possibilities until one name stood out: Ricky Lee Stallworth, a former U.S. Air Force serviceman stationed at Hill Air Force Base in Utah in 1985. Investigators confirmed that Stallworth had lived less than an hour from where Christine was found. He owned a vehicle that matched tire marks from the scene, and his military records placed him in Salt Lake City on the exact week of the murder. It all lined up. But when police finally located Stallworth, they discovered something else. He had died in 2023 of natural causes. The killer was gone, but his DNA had spoken for him. Detectives shared the results with Christine's family. After 40 long years of silence, tears filled the room as they heard the name they had waited decades to learn. It wasn't the ending they had dreamed, but it was the truth. And the truth, even after so much time, still mattered. The murder of Christine Gallegos was finally solved. Thanks to science, perseverance, and love that refused to fade, justice had found its way at last. Justice doesn't always come quickly. Sometimes it waits, through decades of silence, loss, and unanswered questions. For Christine Gallegos, justice came 40 years late, but it came. Her story reminds us that behind every cold case file lies a life once full of dreams and laughter, a daughter who never came home, a family that never stopped hoping, and detectives who refused to let time bury the truth. Thanks to the persistence of those who cared and the power of modern science, Christine's voice was finally heard. Today, her name stands not as a tragedy, but as a symbol of perseverance, proof that truth never dies. Every victim deserves to be remembered. Every unanswered question deserves a chance to be solved. And every story, no matter how cold, deserves an ending. Because in the end, justice, even delayed, still brings light to the darkness. In memory of Christine Gallegos, may her story continue to remind us why we seek the truth.